Hey, what's up, guys? It's Sanjoku. We're back at it tonight live. We're going to do something a little bit different tonight. We're going to do a how-to video. I have a lot of people watching the stream that are brand new to Magic. They have no idea how to play this game. And if you've never played it before, this game can be really, really overwhelming to you. So I wanted to just make something just kind of show off exactly what Arena is, the basics of how you actually play this game. If you're a real experienced Magic player and you've been playing Arena for a while, this is not the video for you. If you've been playing Magic for a while and you've never played Arena, please stick around. You'll have a good time. And if you've never played Magic at all and you're thinking about getting into it, then this is the video you've been searching YouTube for that just does not exist. So we're going to jump into it. I'm going to show you guys exactly what the layout of this game is. We're going to break down everything from how to throw your mana, what mana is, what creatures do, what planeswalkers do, enchantments, and so on. By the end of it, I think it'll be real helpful. I think you guys will have a pretty good idea of how to play this game and what you're looking to get into. So let's just start off. When you first open up the game and you download it and you start playing, you're going to have to run through a tutorial mode. It's going to show you the game flow. You play against a bot named Spark. We're going to play a few games against her towards the end of this. You're designed to win those games. It just kind of shows you the flow, but once you finish that, it sticks you at this main screen, and if you've never played Magic before, you're like, okay, well, what the hell am I supposed to do now? We're going to show you. We're going to take you through everything in this game, what it has to offer, and you'll be ready to play with your friends in no time. So when you start off, this is your home screen. The daily challenges that you have will be listed down here at the bottom. I've left mine open for a day or two just so you'd be able to see the variety of them. If you're really grinding at this game, you're only going to have one a day. But like the first one would be cast 20 creature spells. So if you play 20 creatures, it doesn't have to be in the same game. It's just over time as it elapses. You'll get 500 gold and 500 XP, which is really good. If you attack with 45 creatures over your series of games, then you'll end up getting 750 gold and 500 XP, and so on. I mean, if you got to cast 20 white or red spells, and all these challenges are pretty much the exact same thing. It's just different colors you have to use or different things you have to do. They're really, really basic. You can usually knock them out in a night, but you want to do it because you want to build up your gold as much as you can. This game has pretty much a battle pass because Fortnite's a thing, so every game that you ever play from this point forward is going to have some kind of battle pass. It's called a mastery pass. We'll get into it in a minute. It's $10. I highly recommend that you buy it. There's not going to be many things I recommend that you buy in this video, but it leads to a lot of packs, and the secret to this game for not spending money is opening up packs. And so you're at the main screen, and say you want to challenge one of your friends to a game. You both downloaded it. You both have the starter decks because you get a bunch of starter decks when you play through the tutorial mode. And you're like, hey man, you want to play? And you're both in Discord because you can't actually talk to each other through the game. You have to be in some other service to be able to talk to each other. You would go to the two swords, direct challenge. The direct challenge, you type in your opponent's name, whatever it may be. This is your name that you have to give them. Make sure you put it exactly like it is. Type it in here, whatever it may be, and then just click, or you have to pick your deck, whatever deck you want to run, then just click play. And as long as you both do it right, it'll put you in a match together. Me and my buddies usually run the tournament match just because it's best of three, so you don't have to keep backing out and redoing it. But once you pick one of your friends, I'm not going to show my whole friends list here, but when you click the down arrow, it'll show all their names, so you only have to do this one time. And that really makes it a lot easier, makes challenges a lot easier. If you just want to jump into some games, if you go to play mode, these are all the events, the current events that are happening. So it would be like your traditional draft. The drafts are where you pick through 6 packs with a bunch of other players. You get to keep all the cards that you get when you're doing these. The drafts are a good way to get gems, but if you really just want to grind this game, open up cards and get a bunch of wild cards and everything, you really just want to play in the constructed events or the traditional constructed. The sealed events, if you're brand new to this, you want to avoid those until you have a pretty good grasp on this game. And really, until you have a true deck that you really like, that's winning a lot of games, you want to avoid this whole top spot completely. You want to go into either a play match. This is player versus player, just some other random person sitting out there like you playing a game. Whoever wins the game wins the round. It's only one game per match. The bot match is a good place to test it out. That's where you get to play Spark again, the little person that you played all through your tutorials with. It's really good for testing out your deck. You usually get way better draws than you get in player versus player. Traditional plays, just best of 3. You get to play just another player, 3 games. There's sideboards in this game that are made up of 15 cards, so if you lose the first game, you'll have an option to put in your additional 15 cards. You got to take out 15, or you could just leave it all, but that is a terrible, terrible idea. Ranked matches is how you move up your ranked. We'll get into that a little bit later in the video. And then traditional ranked is just best of 3 ranked games where you could level up twice, but you can also fall back 2 spots. And that's pretty much your general your home screen overlay. The profile, this is just where you're at. I've really been working on my stream, so I'm only at gold tier 3 right now. You start off in bronze like I am in limited. Like I said, I don't screw around with limited too much. Once you really get a good grasp on this game, and I'm not saying that I don't have a good grasp on this game, I just really don't like doing drafts that much. But you can move up through these ranks. You start on bronze, then you go to silver. There's 4 tiers per rank. And then you go to gold, then you go to platinum, and then diamond. And then once you get to mythic, you actually get a number instead of having to go through the tiers, and it's just your world rank as far as all the people that are playing MTG Arena. So we're gold tier rank 3 right now, which is nothing to write home about. Our mastery pass is at 57, but this is just showing you where you're at in the game. Your decks, we'll spend a lot of time in this one. This is just all the decks that you've created as you've been playing the game with the cards you've unlocked. This was also where you'll find all the decks that you've unlocked through the tutorial and all that kind of stuff. And then this plus button right here is where you build your own decks. We're going to come back to this section in a few minutes. The packs, this is where you come to buy packs. You can get 1 pack for 1,000 gold, or we'll go into the store here in a second. I'll show you the breakdown of everything else. Really what you want to be doing is spending 1,000 gold to buy packs. All you do is click on packs, and then like here you can see that's the pack for 1,000 gold. This is what you will be doing the majority of the time. If you want to go buy gems, that's how you can open up multiple packs at a time. If you really, really like this game, I will tell you this right now. If you play it and you're like, man, this game is awesome, spend the money. It's $50. It's just like buying a regular video game, but you get to open up 45 packs. You can get your 9,000 gems. You'll have some gems left over if you want to screw around with them. But it's pretty much like buying half a box at the store. The only difference is you're going to unlock a bunch of wild cards when you do that. So you'll be able to build one of the top tier decks if you wanted to with the wild cards you're unlocked, and you'll have a few more left over. You won't be able to build 2 of the top tier decks, but you'll definitely be able to get one of them if you do this. This is the one that I would recommend, and I would only recommend doing it one time. Then you'll see in here they have like the featured. I really wanted to show you guys this. You're like, man, for this 2,400 gems, I get all this. Anytime it says, like, look at that top line, it says card style. That does not give you the card. That confuses people playing this game all the time. Until you unlock that card, you do not have it at all. Buying this will not give you that card. I cannot stress that enough. This one, you get all the full art lands. I mean, these lands are unlimited anyways. You just don't have the full art ones. Spending 2,000 gems just to have your card look a little bit different is not worth it. And that is all this featured items is, except for the 100 or 20,000 gems for $100. This is pretty much the same as buying a box when you go to the store. The 3,400 gems for $19.99. If you really get into this game, you're going to find yourself picking this thing up probably once a month just so you can go ahead and get the extra wild cards, get the deck finished that you've really been thinking about because you're kind of sick of doing the grind and you just want it now. So I'm going to tell you right now, if you really get into this game, you're going to end up buying this little guy more than once. But if you're just starting off and you're like, I just want to build a good deck, I want to play some games, then I recommend just, like I said, buying an actual video game. Spend the $50, buy those 45 packs, and things will work out pretty well for you. The Mastery, this is where you check on that Battle Pass that you bought. I highly, highly, highly recommend doing it for the simple fact that every other time you level, you get a free pack. And it's adding to your wild card series. When you get into the pack screen here, every time you open up a pack, you level this up one time, you level this up one time. So every time you get to 6, you get an uncommon wild card and you get a gold wild card, which can be cashed in for any card in the game, which is why, well, any card that equals this value in the game. So you can get any uncommon, you can get any rare, and then every 4 turns, this turns into a mythic, to where you can unlock any mythic card in the game. Don't be fooled. Just because a card's mythic or rare doesn't mean that it's super good. There's a lot of incredibly crap mythic and rare cards out there. You'll see them as you unlock your packs. And sometimes when you unlock a pack, the top middle card right here is going to be, it won't be flipped over yet. It has a chance at being one of the wild cards. It's really cool when you hit it. You'd really rather hit a wild card than any other card unless you get the card that you're really searching for, which is pretty random. But the Mastery is really good. If you got the extra $10, you want to play this game, you want to be able to unlock packs, get this. Plus you get to upgrade your little cat. A lot of people turn this off. I really enjoy having my cat out there when I'm playing. The Mastery Tree, you'll do one of these Mastery Trees when you're going through your tutorial. It goes by really quick, so don't worry about that. During the Battle Pass part of it, you'll get a little orb every now and again, and you just drag it to wherever you want it to be, and it just unlocks a different card style. I'm really hoping they give me something when I complete this whole circle. If they don't, I'm going to be very angry. But we'll get back into it. Let's go to the decks. Okay, so these are all the decks that I've built. I've done videos for most of these decks. You won't have a lot of mono-colored decks except for probably mono red and maybe mono blue. I was doing a mono-colored series, that's why you're seeing these across the top. But then you'll have a lot of your 2-color decks. You might have a couple 3-color decks out there. Until you unlock a lot of the lands with your wild cards, I would recommend staying away from 3 colors, just because you don't want a bunch of tap lands coming in, and we'll get into that in a second. So let's say we want to build a new deck. And if you never played this game, this can be incredibly overwhelming for you right off the bat. You're like, man, there's so many cards out here, and you're going to have a bunch of cards unlocked when you start. So it's not like it's just me, because I've been playing for a while. You'll have a bunch of these cards unlocked. So the main thing you want to do before you even start is just think, what do you want to do with your deck? All these different colors do different things. And it's not limited to this, but this is kind of what they stand for. If you play white, it's all about gaining life. It's about bringing out, like, it has the angels and the humans. There's a bunch of other stuff in there. I mean, it has vampires and stuff too. But it's all about getting life, healing yourself, keeping yourself in the game. Blue's all about control and drawing cards. If you want to play the kind of game style to where you control exactly what's happening on the board, there's counters, there's removal as far as just returning it back to their hand, and then there's cards that just make you draw more cards so you can keep doing that over and over again. Black is all about removal. It just killing creatures, they put it out, you do a kill spell, they're gone. Black's really cool. Black does a lot of damage to yourself, but it's very strong. Black is one of the colors I run more often than not. Red is all about speed. Speed and direct damage to your opponent. Red has a lot of spells that just say deal 2 damage to your opponent. Deal 3 damage to your opponent. It also has a lot of creatures that have haste, which means that they can come out and attack right away. You don't have to wait a turn to attack with them. And they have other creatures that they can sacrifice themselves to deal damage to you. Red is very much, you'll always see it in all the competitive decks. It'll be like, oh, mono red wins the tournament again. It's because mono red is incredibly fast. Green is your big creatures, like your big creatures. On the back end of this thing, some of these guys are 10-10s, 12-12s. Not impossible to get to them because green also has cards that let you ramp up to them. They'll have little creatures that you tap for extra mana. The decks move a little bit slower. Green's a really good color to throw in with another color to try to help get you to that back end and buy you a little bit of time. Green is, I do like green, but green can screw you a lot. I'm not even going to lie. And then they have colorless. Colorless is pretty much just creatures where you don't have to have a certain color land on the board. You'll see a lot of your artifacts in here. You'll see some creatures in here, but they're mostly all going to be artifacts when you're coming through. It'll be like an artifact creature or an artifact that sits on the board. We'll get more into that in a second. So say you have your deck and you're like, man, I really, really want to do this. I really want to gain life the whole time. You're like, okay, so what do I do? So just say you just type in life. Any card, you got to have it highlighted. Any card that has the word life in its description down here for what the card does is going to pop up now. So it's like flying, I'll have life link. The great two soldiers with life link. This will show you all the cards that are going to give you life in some way. So you can go through and do it that way. You can put in like vampire and it'll pull up all the vampires that you want to see that you either have or you don't have. You have to go into your little settings thing and click on not collected. This will show you all the cards that you have already that will be brighter and that you don't have that will be darker. That's where it becomes your choice if you want to spend the wild cards in order to unlock it or if you don't want to unlock it. The wild cards are a big reason why a lot of people are leaving MTGO and coming over and starting to play in the arena. Just because in MTGO you're paying money for those cards. I mean, if Soren's $20 for you to buy on eBay, it's going to be pretty much $20 for you to buy on MTGO. But if you're willing to play the grind, you can just go through and all you do is you just right click on it and then you can craft. As long as you have enough cards to craft, like here I have 41 rare or 41 just basic cards that I have to unlock. So I want 2 of these. I just craft it and then he's part of my collection now. So the wild cards are a huge difference maker in this game, and you only get them by opening up packs. So you want to be able to go through and open up as many packs as you can, get your wild cards, and that will bring you to the point to where there's 2 ways that people build decks in this game. If you're brand new, get online, find a color that suits you, or 1 or 2 colors that suit you. Go to a spot like MTG Top 8 or MTG Goldfish has a lot of games has a lot of decks where you can look at that aren't the hyper competitive decks, to where you can build a deck with the wild cards that you have instead of building a deck that's the top ranked deck that's being number 1 right now. Because if you do that, you're going to end up spending a lot of money on this game. But you can get some really good competitive decks from like MTG Goldfish. Bring them in, take a look at them. You can, let me see here, if we go back to just your regular decks, if you find a deck on one of those websites, you can import it. It'll pop up here and be a dark color until you unlock all the cards for it. But once you unlock all the cards for it, you can go ahead and start running that deck. Another cool feature of this is I have, let's just say this Don't Cry deck. I want to make some changes to it, but I don't want to tweak it too much because I don't want to screw it up. If you just go to clone and click on it, then you have the exact same deck. You can make all the changes you want to it. If it works, awesome. If it doesn't work, just delete it. That way you don't lose your original deck that you've been working on and keeping a real close eye on and doing your little tweaks to. Being able to clone decks makes a huge difference in this game. Go back to the... Another thing you'll hear people talking about is rotation. There's a rotation that's coming up in this game very soon. A rotation in Magic is pretty much these 4 right here, M19 and everything behind it. These are going to disappear. These decks will no longer be playable. And instead of being 8 sets, when the new set drops, there's only going to be 5 sets to choose from, which will drastically change this game. That's how they keep this game going, because you have to rebuild your deck when you can no longer use any of these cards. If you have some wild cards and you spent some money, Rotation's getting very close to happening, so do not buy M19 or anything behind this. Save your cards and always play Magic for the future. So you click on your 1,000 packs, pick whichever one you want to get from these. Any of these four are incredibly strong. M20 that just came out has some very, very strong cards in it, but at the same time, Ravnica Allegiance, and these four will be here for the next year until next fall. So just choose wisely. If you have a card that you want, always buy it from that particular set, just because you have a chance of getting it. And if not, no matter what the pack you open, you're going to get the wild card for it anyways. So be very careful of the rotation. It'll give you a warning when you click on it. If you were about to buy this pack, it'll tell you it won't be playable in standard. All there really is right now in Arena is standard mode. So for no reason should you buy anything from here back. It's just a fair warning to you. If you buy one of these cards, you're like, man, this is awesome. And then in 2 weeks, it's gone. I mean, literally just gone. So save your wild cards. Only spend them on these first four, and make sure you spend them on something that you truly, truly want. If you want to go out, like I personally prefer to just build decks. I don't like to go to the websites. I've been playing this Magic for a long, long time now. So once you've been playing it for a while, you get a feel of how to build these decks. You get a feel of what works, what doesn't work. But don't be afraid to go out and just get one of those decks. It's going to take you a minute to learn it. You might go out and spend all your wild cards and build a deck, and you go out and you just get stomped like the first 10 or 15 games you play. Do not get all pissed. You are just still learning how to use that particular deck. It takes a little bit of time, but once you master your deck, you will go out there and just start destroying people with it, and they'll be like, all right, I'm starting to really see how this works. And that'll lead you into building your own decks and making little tweaks to the deck that you're running, keeping up with the next rotations, adding cards in and adding cards out, or bringing cards out. And that goes a really long way. A lot of cards you're looking for, you're pretty much just looking for the value of cards. Like a card like Vicious Rumors, it's just your basic card, but it deals 1 damage to your opponent. They have to discard a card, and they put a card in their library, and you gain 1 life, just for 1 mana. So like this card has a tremendous amount of value to it. But then there's other cards out there, if you were just in your regular, let's just go back to our decks here, and you just have one of your basic cards, like you tap him, you gain 1 life. He's just a 1/1. There's certain decks where he really works strong, but there's other decks where it's like, why would you even have him in here? There's a lot of Magic cards that are completely obsolete, and you have to figure out, and that's where going online helps out, but just, they don't do anything for you. Like this Ox, he comes out, he's an 0/4. He has no other benefit to him. So this Ox right here, compared to this Sky Marcher, who's a 2/1, but he has flying as long as you have 10 or more things on the board. This is a much, much stronger card. And the symbols always, you can always tell, like, he's an uncommon, so he's silver. You see the little silver mark right there next to his name. That's how you tell what you're buying. This is a gold card, and so it has the little gold symbol. And so those are how you judge where you're spending your wild cards at. You always want to work off of just synergy and curve. You'll hear people say it all the time, like, oh man, your deck just doesn't have the synergy. And it's like, well, okay, well, what the hell is synergy? Can you explain that to me? Like, it's just that thing. And it's, all right, that doesn't help me. Synergy is pretty much just having all your things work together. Whatever cards you play, it's going to feed off the cards you played before, or it's going to end up playing together to where it combos itself together. Synergy is one of the most important things in Magic. That's why a lot of people, let me type this in real quick, they'll put in like vampires or merfolk. Those are just 2 examples of the cards that work. I just can't spell today. Sorry about that. It's like I typed in vampires there, and it only pulls up 3 cards. This is extremely, extremely specific. But if you just put in vampire, then it will pull up all of your vampire cards. And these vampires, I mean, they do feed together real well. You have cards like the Legion Lieutenants where all your other vampires get +1/+1. You'll have cards like Where's Soren at? Where he comes in, he's one of your planeswalkers, and he'll give your vampire a +1/+1 counter along with everything else that he does. And I know you're sitting there like, well, how the hell do I know what to put into my deck? Well, if you come into here and you click on your little settings thing there, you can get a breakdown of everything you want to have out there. Your lands, your artifacts, your enchantments, your sorceries, your instants, your planeswalkers, and your creatures. We'll just start at the end here. We're going to work our way this way towards the creatures. So if you highlight land, oops, sorry about that. I got to reset all this stuff. Sometimes if you start messing with this, you got to reset it all the time. It's just a glitch in the game. So if you click on your lands, these are all your basic lands. You have an unlimited amount of these. You're going to want to run between 20 and 25 lands depending on what kind of deck you're running. There's really three main kinds of decks in Magic the Gathering. There's aggro decks that are just your very, very fast decks. They play incredibly fast. You want to kill your opponent by turn 4, maybe turn 5. If they go past that, chances are you're going to die in that game and you've lost. There's mid-range decks that try to play that 3 to 7 mana, somewhere in that range. That's actually my favorite zone to play in. You get to see a lot of your deck. You get to move a little bit slower. The games usually take about 10 minutes longer, but you really get into some more powerful creatures. You get into a lot of good combos that way. That's why I really like the mid-range game. And then you have control decks, which are just, they're fun. People always say people that play control are the worst people in the world. It's just because they do a bunch of counter spells. They don't let your deck do what it's supposed to do. You'll see it mostly in blue. Blue, white, black is a no-one. It's called Esper. It's a no-one control deck. A lot of people run it. The higher you get in the ranks, the more and more you'll see it. It just limits you from putting your deck out on the board. It gets a little bit annoying, but once you really get into this game and you build your first control deck, you'll see. If you're that kind, it takes a special kind of person. But if you are that kind of person, control might be for you. But you can go through, and these are all your basic lands. It's just land after land, different colors. It doesn't matter what the picture is. They're all just basic lands. When you get further in, these are your two-colored lands. When you first start, you'll have some of these unlocked. You'll have the basic ones unlocked. And they come and you'll see where it says it enters the battlefield tapped. That means it comes in and you cannot use it right away. You have to wait for a turn to use it. But then you'll have other lands like this that come in, and if you pay 2 life, you can use it right away. Not sure if I have any in that color. If you have, where is it? A land like this, as long as you control one of the basic lands of that color, it'll come in untapped and you'll be able to use it right away. I would recommend, once you have the colors that you want to play, you need to have the rare lands, the gold lands, for that particular deck. It makes a huge difference in the speed. It makes a huge difference for your deck. So you really want to, it sucks to waste your wild cards on land, but it's one of the biggest parts of this game. So do not be afraid to do it. There are no such thing as 3-color lands, so you don't have to worry about that. You just got to get your color combinations. If you run 3 colors, then you have to go ahead and buy the different lands for those 3 colors. But like I said, when you're running 3 colors, at that point you have to have all these lands unlocked, the good ones, the rare ones, or else your deck's just not going to work. The artifacts are mostly, there'll be some that are like your vehicles. There's only a few vehicles in this game right now, but most of your artifacts, they come out, they sit on the board in the corner, they have whatever ability they do. Some of them, let me see here. Like this red one here. This one helps with, if you run red, there's a planeswalker named Chandra. This helps trigger all her abilities multiple times. It's an incredibly, incredibly strong card if you're running those Chandras. And it just sits off to the side of the board. So unless they have something to take it, they can't attack it with a creature. So it just kind of sits there. A lot of them will give you extra land. You can just, this will cost you 3. It'll sit up in the corner, but the next turn you'll have an extra land. I don't screw around with artifacts too much. I think because I play more of the mid-range aggro game, they just kind of slow me down a little bit. I definitely look through them if you're building a new deck. There's a couple out there that are incredibly strong that you'll see in a lot of decks out there. Where's that horse at? This horse right here. you choose a color, and then whenever you cast a spell of that chosen color, you gain 1 life. There's a lot of different life gains out here. So the Diamond Mare works in those kind of decks. And so you might see me running it in something like that. But for the most part, when you're just getting started at this game, I would just avoid the artifacts at first. It's not going to hurt you, but it's really not going to help you at the same time. The enchantments, on the other hand, are a very, very big part of this game. Enchantments do the same thing. They sit off to the side, but they add a lot more to the game, and there's many, many different levels of how good they are. A card like Seal Away, I mean, if a creature attacks, you can just eliminate that creature, put it into exile underneath him, and until they get rid of this, just sitting on the board, that creature's out of the game completely. There's cards like Dawn of Hope, where it just sits off to the side, but if you gain life, if you pay 2 mana or 2 land, then you get to draw an extra card. We'll get into draw power in a second, but draw power is extremely, extremely important in this game. And every color has its own set of enchantments that you can go through and unlock. Really, when you build a deck, take a time to just click on enchantments, look at what you have open, see if there's any in there that you really want. Enchantments, I'm not saying that you want to put a bunch in your deck. You probably only want to have maybe 3 to 6 in your deck, unless you're running just some kind of strange enchantment deck with their... Really, you want to stay away from that at first. But the enchantments can be strong, so make sure that you... Whenever I build a deck, I'll always just go through it in this order. That's why I'm taking you through it in this order, just so you can see the colors, see what you have open to you. The sorceries can only be played anytime that it's your turn. So it's your turn, you're like, oh man, I got a sorcery. He attacked me with a creature last turn. His creature is still sitting there, tapped over, because he just attacked me. So you could use your sorcery at that point, because it's your turn to go ahead and kill it. But your sorceries do a whole bunch of others. Like this sorcery will put a token out for every land that you tap. That's what X is. So you'll have to pay 2 white, and then whatever you pay after that, you're paying X. So you get that many tokens. So if you have 7 mana, you tap 2 white, then you pay the other 5, you'll put out 5 tokens. There's a lot of really good sorceries out there, but they don't work at instant speed. We'll get into instants in a second. But they're usually a little bit more powerful than instants, just because you have to wait till it's your turn to play them. So definitely go through your sorceries, check those out. Same thing with the enchantments. You're not going to want a whole bunch of these in your deck, but they do make a big difference in controlling the board. So make sure that you have at least a couple that match up with your color, just to show you exactly what they can do and affect your deck. The instants, this is where you can, at any point throughout the game, whether it's his turn, your turn, you can throw these cards out there. Instants are incredibly powerful. You will end up having a good bit of these in your deck every single time. You also want to get the black real quick. You can get a lot of kill spells in this. This is just destroy target non-legendary creature. Some of your creatures will say legendary creature, and this cannot hit them. The majority of creatures in this game are not legendary creatures, so this cast down is a very, very strong card. Just because for 2 mana, at any point, as long as you have 2 that you can tap down, you can throw this out there at any time and kill his creature. If he's about to swing it, kill it. If he's already swing it and you don't want to block it, go ahead and throw that out there and kill it real quick. Here's Murder. It's the same card. It's the same card, 1 more mana, but this one can just target any creature on the board. Baraska's Contempt. This targets creatures and planeswalkers, and you get 2 life. But it's not just limited to that. Like when you get into red, just at any point throughout the game, you can just tap 1, swing in, and smack him in the face for 2. There's nothing he can do about it. You could hit his creatures, you can hit him, you could hit planeswalkers with it. And every color will have its own source of instances. When you get into green, you get into a lot of the pump ones, to where like if your creature attacks, you can play this, and it'll give him +3/+3. So he swings in as a huge creature all of a sudden when your teammate or your opponent wasn't expecting it. So definitely check out your instance. Instances can be a lot of fun. They affect the board dramatically when you throw them out there. Planeswalkers are incredibly cool. I have a good bit of them locked out here, but with your Planeswalkers, you play them the same thing. They kind of sit off to the side, and depending on if they're mythic rare, you see the orange, or if they're just uncommon, or if they're just your basic rare ones, or just your rare ones, they each have different abilities. You can only do these once per turn. So we'll just take a Johnny here, for example. So at the very beginning of your turn, you can, well, really at any point throughout your turn, but most people will do it right at the beginning. You can go ahead and +1, which will make him a 4 or make him a 5 instead of a 4. You can put a +1/+1 counter on each of the 2 creatures. So if you have a creature out there, you click on him, then you click on your creature, and then your creature's even stronger going into the next turn. If you want to take 2 away from him, make him a 4 into a 2, then you can return a target creature with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. I mean, these are all huge, huge abilities that really help you out throughout the process of a game. But at the same time, you can negative him to the point to where you just kill him off the board. Most planeswalkers, except for the ones that are uncommons, will have an ultimate ability. His is like if you'd +1/+1/+1, keep countering up your creatures, and then once he got to a 7 or above, I mean, you don't have to kill him. You can go up to 8 and then -7 them. You get an emblem at the beginning of your end step, create 3 cat creatures. Like that will happen for the remainder of the game. Once you do his ultimate, that lasts forever. So like even if he dies, you'll have a little emblem off to the side to where you get that every single time, whether he's on the board or not. Planeswalkers are incredibly strong. The only time you want to run like one single card in your deck as opposed to running 3 or 4 of them is if you have one of these super strong planeswalkers on the back, like Liliana. If I'm doing a black-white deck or a black-red deck, I'm like, man, I'm at 58 cards or 59 cards. Go ahead and stick a Liliana in there just to get you to 60, so that way your deck is fully functioning. Because at the end of a game, there's a lot of times where you'll just drop Lily out there and people will just quit just because they know that the game's over. So just keep an eye out for your planeswalkers. There's some planeswalkers out there that I don't want to say are completely pointless, but at the same time, you're not going to end up running them in your deck just because they just don't have the synergy with a lot of the cards that are out there. Maybe when the next set drops, some of these other planeswalkers will have a little more value. But just be real careful when you're spending your wild cards for what you want to get. If you're going to spend it on a planeswalker, make sure it's a planeswalker that you're sticking into your deck right away, right off the bat. Then you get into your creatures. This is the bread and butter of this whole game here, especially when you're first starting out. The only thing I can tell you for your creature is just make sure that they have value. You never want to have a creature in your deck that has nothing wrote underneath his name. He's a 2-drop, he's a 3/1. A 3/1's easily removed. Just a little chump blocker. You'll hear people say chump blocker. A chump blocker is just a little 1/1 that you throw out there. And he gets his value, or he's either a token, but it'll chump block this guy and it'll kill him. So he really has, even though he's a 3/1, he has no true value. But then you get into a card like the Starfield Mystic. And his if you run enchantments, they cost you 1 less to cast. And then whenever an enchantment you control is put into the battlefield, put a counter on the Mystic. So, I mean, if you have a few enchantments in there, you have the Mystic out there, he's going to grow real fast. It's going to save you mana. So this guy right here, he's a 2/2. He has a lot of value. So just be real careful what you're doing. Stay away from cards like this. He's another 3/1, because you know that it's really not going to help you that much. And just go for the value. The stronger that the cards become, or the more mana that the cards cost you, the better off you're going to be as far as getting value for them. But you don't want to have a deck that has a bunch of 5 and 6 mana drops in it, because you're never going to get to the back end. You'll get ran over before you get there. So you just got to choose wisely of what you want to have, and that's pretty much what your curve is. You'll have a lot of people talk about your curve. Your curve is pretty much you want to be able to drop your mana and then play a card. So you'll have 1 mana and a 1-drop, 2 mana and a 2-drop, 3 mana and a 3-drop. And then once you get to there, it's pretty much, you want to start a game with 3 mana. Sometimes you get flooded and you'll have a bunch of mana, but you just kind of want to stay on your curve. That's what your curve is. You want to be able to drop a card every time it's your turn. And so your curve is very important. That's why you'll see, let me just go to one of my decks here. When you go to, let's go to the Vamps here. This is the Vampire deck that everybody seems to be running right now. You'll see just going down the line. I mean, it's 4 four ofs, four ofs, four ofs, four ofs. You have occasional two ofs. But you really just, you want your deck to play the exact same way every time. This deck's designed to put a bunch of vampires out there, pump them up, swing in an attack, and if something gets in your way, then you kill it with a Mortify, or you get rid of it with your Legion's End. Just one of your random kill spells. So that way you can just keep attacking. The game goes really fast. And it's just real easy to attack in. Get into a deck like this. I just made this deck for a video, just for one of the monocolored ones. This deck did terrible. But you look at it in the back end, it's just a bunch of one-ofs. It has no synergy. It has no real game plan. The whole thing was just trying to get a bunch of real big creatures out there. It seems like in theory, like, man, if I get all these 5 and 6 drops out there, I'll have no problem winning this game. If you play mono red and you put a bunch of real high-end stuff in there, and it's turn 4 and you're at 1 life, guess what? That game's over. You're not going to get to any of this stuff. So just be real careful. A lot of it is just trial and error, but trial and error is what makes Magic such a great game. And the fact that the cards are always rotating keeps it fresh all the time. So really, it's a really fun game. I highly, highly suggest it. We're going to go in. So let's say you're like, all right, I'm going to build a deck. And so you build your first deck. You put in, we're not going to build a full deck right here. We're going to use one of our other decks. But you go through the process. You build your deck. You have, let's say you're running 20. If you run 20 creatures, and you would never do this, I'm just using an example, 20 lands and then 20 instant sorceries and enchantments in there. That would be your 60 card deck. All your decks are 60 cards or more. You always want to stay at 60 cards. You can go to 61, maybe if you really wanted to, but you really want to try to keep it at 60 so that way your deck is broke down into thirds. Let's see. So we'll go to, actually we're going to do this life gain deck first, just because it's really easy to see for you guys to see, and I'll be able to show you the stack real easy. This one's, you'll have your 4 ofs, like Fountain of Renewal, that's an artifact. Like you don't want to have 4 artifacts in your deck. But you could run 2 of them in there, because if he gets in there and you put it out on the board turn 1, it's going to help trigger everything else in this deck to go off. And we're going to play a few games against the Spark. That's out of here. So when you go to play mode, you'll go to bot match. Always test out your decks here. You'll play against the bot. If the bot beats you, which the bot should never beat you, but if by some chance the bot keeps beating you, start over completely, because you should never ever lose these games. I'm not saying that the bot won't beat you, because sometimes she'll come out, you'll just be taking your time trying different things. I don't want to lose to the bot, then have you guys think I'm crazy. But the bot is designed for you to win against the bot. Unless you play super slow, then they'll just kill you off to get to the next game. Unless that's what your deck's designed to do. It's designed to show you what your deck can do. So you'll play some bot games. If it's working good, jump into some play matches. Play some games against some other people. They don't count for anything. If you're like, man, this deck's really going good, jump it into ranked. If you start really winning some games in ranked, you're going to start moving up your level, XP and a whole bunch. And you're like, man, this deck is unstoppable. Then bring it in, jump into some tournaments. I mean, this whole game is just about having fun, just working your decks up through the ranks until you can get into these tournaments, or just keep playing ranked until you can get up to the mythic level. I will tell you, you'll see a lot of people like me, and you'll see a lot of other streamers out there. They always jump into games just in play mode. Play mode is where people like to bring their decks and just test them out. They build new decks, and that's what Magic Hall is. Just building new decks, testing them out, and seeing if they work or not. When you get into playing ranked, it's the same 5 or 6 decks that you play every single time. And you're going to end up having one of those decks if you're playing ranked. It's just the top tier decks that people go out and they net deck off the internet, bring it back in, they build that deck, and then they play ranked with it. It gets, I don't want to say boring, because it is very competitive, but when you play the same 5 or 6 decks over and over and over again, you just want something fresh. That's why you'll see a lot of us jump into play mode, just because it's people's creations. But we're going to jump into the bot mode just so I can show you guys like what the stack is, how these games play out. So you'll go in, click on play. Excuse me. The bot matches usually go pretty quick. Playing our good old friend Sparky. She'll be talking to us throughout the game. Okay, so we have one of our two color lands, the one that costs us 2 life, but we can bring it in. We have the Dust Legion, which he's 2 and he's a 1/1, but he has great value because he draws us a card. Paying 2 mana to draw a card is definitely worth it at any given time. Then we have 2 Legion's Ends, which is just removal spells, and then we have another champion at the back end, and he's just more draw power. He's a big body, he has a lot of draw power, but he costs us life for every card that we draw off of him. This isn't honestly a very good opening hand, but we're playing Spark, so we're going to go ahead and keep it.
Let's get started.
He has a little vampire. We'll pay 2 life to enter this for black because now we have a 1-drop. So we'll put him out. It'll tap your land. Okay, so now he has 2 creatures out. A 1/1. This is Death Touch and Lifelink. Death Touch means that if you attack and he blocks, it doesn't matter that he's only a 1/1. He'll kill your creature. That's what Death Touch is. If he blocks him, he will kill him. It does not work on planeswalkers. It only works creature to creature. So we don't want to swing into this because we know that we'll die right away. So we'll play a land. We'll have the Legion's End, which is a whole bunch of stuff wrote here, but it's pretty much just saying that we get, if anything that's less than 2 mana, which this is, we can go ahead and kill off the board. And then it'll also check his hand to see if he has any more and give us a chance to see his whole hand. Being able to see your opponent's hand is a huge, huge advantage. That's what makes that card so good. Now it's a 2/1. Would you want to attack into this? No, you do not want to attack into this because he's going to kill this and you're going to kill that, but there's no value there. So we just go no attacks and send it back over. You get to see everything he has here. So he has the murder. He's going to send that down. Just one of his instant spells. So we can just kill it right away. Play out another land. We have our little 1-drop. And then, like, man, we have 2 of these dusts right here. We can kill this guy if we wanted to, but we're just going to play him out so we can get another land, or we can get another card drawn into us. And then we can use this just to block that and kill it real quick so he can't just keep swinging in to get the life. He passes it back to us. The Isolated Chapel, this is one of those that enters as long as we have a plains. So we have the plains right there, so this will come in untapped. We'll use the Legion's End to take that card away.
Aww.
We'll play out the other Sky Marcher. Because at this point we're just trying to get a bunch of creatures out so we can get a big attack here. Attack with everybody. Now, one thing you should know when you're playing Spark, this does not count towards your win rate. It does not count towards your XP. It doesn't count towards anything. You are just practicing your deck right here. That's why it's so easy to win this game. So now we have enough mana to play this guy. So we're going to drop him out. He's going to draw us 3 cards. Actually 4 cards because he counts as a vampire. But we're going to lose 4 life.
Ooh, cool.
So make sure you're always reading the text on these cards because everything in Magic is extremely literal. We have an open board, a wide open attack, so we'll attack everybody. See, like I said before, like she has the mana to play these cards. They just choosing not to. So we'll play out another swamp. Play out the other champion. We're going to keep hurting ourselves here.
Real good.
But it really doesn't matter because we're pretty much in complete control of this game. Play out the other Sky Marcher. See, now these have flying all of a sudden. Because we've reached what's called the City's Blessing, where you have 10 or more permanents on the board. So now all these guys are flyers, so they'll be able to go right over the top of this. So we'll swing everybody out again. You can only have 7 cards in your hand at one point. So if you have more than that, like we just did, you just have to pitch a card into your graveyard. I'd get this as a card, the Legion Lieutenant. This is what I was talking about with synergy. Everybody I have on the board right now is a vampire. So when I
Ever
put her
think
down,
about the multiverse?
everybody's going to
Like,
get a huge bump.
hey, that's wild.
So now all of a sudden I have 2/5/5s, 2/3/3s. These are flying so that she can't stop this because neither one of these have what they call reach, to where they can stop flying creatures, because only flying creatures
Whoa!
can stop flying creatures.
Sorry.
So we'll just
Thought I
swing in
saw
with
something.
everybody here. I mean, this is game real quick. Right there when that popped up, I'm sorry I skipped that. That's just where you assign who you want to block or who you want to hit first. It gives you
I
the
wonder
option to
what your
kill somebody
favorite
and leave
card
somebody
is.
else on the board in some situations. So always, at this point it didn't matter, but always check that, 'cause sometimes it's very crucial.
Want to play again?
And that's it. So we go ahead and we whip through Spark real quick. If you're very new to this game and you spend the money and you go out and you're like, I'm going to build the ultimate deck, I'm not going to tell you not to do it. But the true root of Magic is going through, unlocking these cards, unlocking your wild cards, and building the deck that you want to come up with. I know a lot of people just want the satisfaction of just going out there and winning. But I'm telling you right now, you can build decks that will beat the top tier decks with the cards that you have available. You won't be able to beat them all the time. You won't be able to beat it. You'll be able to beat certain decks super consistently if you build for that particular deck, but you won't be able to hang with all the random decks. That's really what the hyper competitive decks are. But just stay in play mode so it counts towards unlocking these. You'll be able to rank up, or not rank up, but you'll be able to get through your mastery pass pretty quickly. These cards, this is your little tracker that shows you how many cards you have of each type for your wild cards. This adds up surprisingly fast. I know mine are low right now. I just built a new deck for a video. So just keep an eye on that. Once you get to the point where you're like, man, I have 6 rares. I want to go ahead and get a play set of this card and then 2 more of this one, and then I'll really bump up my deck. Just kind of play it like that. Make sure it's the card you want to buy. There's no refunding these things. You can't go back and change it out. So once you have it, it's yours. So just make sure it's the card that you really, really want before you waste a wild card on it. You have no idea how pissed I've been in the past for wasting wild cards on cards that I really didn't. I thought at the time for like that one night that I really wanted it, and the next day there was another one where I was like, this one would be way, way better. So just, there's no way to test it before you have it, but just really think it through. Make sure it's the one you really want, because the further you progress in this game, the fewer these cards come along. And when you first start playing, you get through that opening battle pass, you're going to have a good bit of these wild, especially the rares and mythic rares opened up. So just save them for the deck that you want to build. Don't just buy random cards. I did that, and you'll make yourself very angry. There's a lot of really good cards out there. If you're not sure which ones you want to get, like I said, go look at a deck. If that's the deck you want to run, that's the style you want to play. There's people out there that like to play incredibly fast. If you want to play incredibly fast, don't use your wild cards in a bunch of 6 and 7 drops. Use it on the 1 and 2 drops that are going to make your deck even faster. Just kind of pick your colors. You'll see with my decks, I'll take you in here real quick. A lot of my really good decks that I run, they're black and white. Those are my 2 favorite colors. It's the colors that I've played since I started playing this game. And then a lot of these other decks are just decks that I've built for videos. And like, this is just a Flyers deck. This is just my mono blue deck. This Don't Cry deck is a deck that I've been working on. I have a previous video. Definitely worth going to check it out. I had a really, really good time with that deck. But if you guys have any questions, I know this is pretty general and we just kind of ran through it. Please leave it down in the comment section. I have no problem replying and helping you guys out. I'd really like to grow the community and just watch people play this game, because it's based a lot on math, but there's a lot more that goes into it. It's a lot of reading your opponent, knowing what they're going to play, being able to predict what they're going to play so you can have a counter attack to it. And it's really just a mental game. And if you have that kind of brain, I always tell people it takes a certain kind of brain to play at Magic the Gathering, but it'll keep testing you over and over again. So I do highly recommend it. I hope this video helped you guys out. If it did, please like, share, and subscribe. It'll be a nice thank you for putting this video out there and really help me grow my channel up. I have a lot of videos that you guys can check out these decks where I go through them and just kind of break them down and we play a few games with them. You'll be able to build those decks without breaking your bank and spending a bunch of money on it. And they are pretty competitive. This white control deck ended up being hyper competitive, and it's pretty much a budget deck. I'll show it to you guys real quick here. It's just a lot of just controlling the board, taking your creatures away, and then we drop some things on the back end that end up bringing us back and winning the game for us. That's just one example of a control deck. And then there's other decks that I have, like the vampire deck that you saw, that just come out super fast with creatures. But my favorite decks, like I said earlier, are the decks like the Angels. They fit that mid-range game. This deck comes out, it's a little bit slow at the start, but the more that I can drag people into the game, the stronger and stronger this deck gets. And those are the games that I truly, truly enjoy. So a lot of my decks you'll see will be more in that mid-range thing, but I'll run the decks that have like the true aggro feel, the true control feel. So I give you a pretty wide variety of videos out there. And like I said, it's not going to be all mythics and rares to where you're out there dropping all your gems and spending 20, 30 bucks a pop just to try to get your wild cards open. So join onto the channel. Hopefully this video helped you guys out. If you have, like I said, if you need any questions, you need anything answered, feel free to send me a message or hit me up in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you for your time.